Finding love can feel like the hardest thing in the world. Even Hollywood makes it seem impossible. It takes years before Harry and Sally realize they're in love. The Little Mermaid gives up everything for her prince. Romeo and Juliet literally die. And don't get me started on the couple in The Notebook. We'll do anything to find our happily ever after, no matter how agonizing it might be. Seriously, ask any single person who's just gone on their 40th uninspiring first date with someone from the apps. Putting in all that effort to find the one is exhausting. The internet promised us that real human connection is just a click away, and yet over 60% of young adults today report feeling lonely. If so many of us are in the same boat, looking, pursuing, not finding, despairing, maybe it's time to try a different approach. So what are we getting wrong about love? And can Jewish wisdom help us get it right? If the fairy tales are true, all of us have a soulmate waiting for us somewhere. And I love that. But I've learned over the past 30-something years that life's not a fairy tale. Little birds don't just help me get dressed every morning. No sea witches are casting spells to help me find a man. Is it possible that Hollywood lied to me about everything? That there's no such thing as the one? So I turned to a personal hero of mine, a strong, smart, and happily married powerhouse for some Jewish wisdom on whether we even have a soulmate.
Here's what Judaism says about soulmates. Before you're born, you're one soul, and God splits you. You're half a soul, you go off into this world, and your other half, your soulmate, also goes off into this world. But when God splits you, if you imagine your soul's like a circle, God does not split you like this. God splits you like this, like two pieces of a puzzle that fit together. And that's why opposites attract, because you're half a soul and you're yearning for completion. When you meet the right person, it's like meeting the part of you that was always missing.
The Jewish concept of soulmates really appeals to my inner Disney princess. And I'm not alone. Most of us really believe that our person is out there. What's a soulmate?
Do you believe in soulmates?
Do you believe in soulmates?
Soulmates? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
You don't, you do.
What is a soulmate?
Anybody you love, you can find them.
That one person that always would be there for you.
Someone can have more than one soulmate. We're all touched by different souls through our lifetime.
Okay, so most of us do believe there's someone, or maybe a lot of someones out there for us. But in a world of 8 billion people, how do we find them? And how do we know if they're the one? I turned to a woman who knows a thing or two about dating. Eliza Ben Shalom is a professional Jewish matchmaker. She's guided countless couples through the gauntlet that is modern dating. And she's seen it all, the good, the bad, the ugly.
How do you know if this is the one or if you should be done? Okay, so we're looking for 3 different categories of things. Okay. Number 1, qualities. Number 2, fears. And number 3, I call it, well, other people call it the ick, but it's bothers. It's those things that a little bit irritate you and get under your skin. The qualities are things like, what do I value? What do I want? What are the characteristics and character traits of somebody? What do I want to get out of life? And who's going to help me to be my best self? And who can I help to be their best self? And personality, we have to throw that into the same category of all these qualities. Number 2 are fears. What are you worried about with a relationship? Everybody's in relationships, and we all come in with previous kind of schmutz, right? You name it, people have dealt with things, and we all have a little bit of relationship trauma, okay? And we're gonna bring that into our future, but we have to incorporate what our fears are and how much our partner triggers that. And then the third is bothers. Like, what about you specifically triggers me? What do you do and to what degree, right? Low, I'm okay. Medium, I could probably handle. High, it doesn't matter if you're perfect. If you have all the qualities I'm looking for, I'm like, wow, mwah, you just hit the mark. If what you do bothers me to the core and I can't function to live with you on a daily basis.
I didn't expect Eliza's answers to be so internal. She's saying that in order to find the one, you have to look deep inside yourself. You have to decide, what do I want? What qualities do I value? How will this person fit into the life I want to build? Look, you have to be honest with yourself about yourself, but you also have to be honest with yourself about what you can tolerate in a future partner. If their loud chewing annoys you now, imagine hearing it across the dinner table for the next 45 years. If their corny puns make you cringe, you're not gonna suddenly find them hilarious after a lifetime side by side. It might seem like a negative way to evaluate a partner, but I'd argue that it's honest. After all, you're gonna spend more time with your partner than anyone else in your life. You're choosing someone to accompany you in the great unknown of the future. It's like a road trip that never ends. And no one wants to get stuck in the car with someone who drives them totally nuts, eats all the good snacks, and chooses the worst soundtrack. Yep, I've done a bunch of road trips in my lifetime. Please learn from my mistakes. Okay, but back to finding your person. Eliza's not the only one who gave me some advice. Lori had some too.
So there's 3 questions you have to answer yes to. One's not more important than the other because it's not a hierarchy. You have to answer yes to all 3. Number 1, do you have the same meaningful life goals and values? Number 2, are you physically attracted to each other? And number 3 is different for a woman than for a man. For a woman, we ask her, without the guy in the room, do you respect him? And what do we ask the guy? Will you be happy making her happy for the rest of your life? Because what does a woman need? A woman needs to be loved. And what does a man need? A man needs to be respected. A woman wants to be respected but needs to be loved. A man wants to be loved but needs to be respected.
Those are big questions to answer. Because how do you know that you want to make another person happy for the rest of your life? I mean, sure, you want to make her happy right now. Sure, you respect him right now. But the rest of your life is a long, long time. So how do you do it? I asked Eliza about how to get over that hurdle. How do you actually commit to building a life with someone when you have no idea what the future holds?
One of the biggest challenges is independence. So even if I buy into soulmates, I still want insurance that everything's gonna be okay for me. Everything's gonna be fine. Financially, I'm gonna be fine. Socially, emotionally, I'm gonna be fine, right? Even you come into my life and you're supposed to like rock my world and make my world, but don't break my world. And let me just ensure that I am okay. So there's a little bit of a holding back because of independence and a lack of building in the relationship and fully trusting because, I don't know, I mean, my first priority is me, not the relationship, not we.
Okay, Eliza, way to personally call me out. Hi, I'm a millennial. So from the time I was a kid, I was inundated with 2 contradictory messages. 1, find your partner. 2, you don't need a partner. Okay, that's a big paradox if I ever saw one. We're told that it's good to be independent, that being strong means you don't need anyone else, and to a certain extent that is true. I mean, you have a lot more freedom when you can take care of yourself. But Eliza says that a successful relationship isn't about having the freedom of infinite options. It's about merging, about seeing yourself as a we, about letting go of your backup plan and leaning into the fact that it's just the 2 of you against the world. And that is a tough transition to make. But it's the essence of a deep, meaningful, and lasting commitment.
So when you know a person is your soulmate, you don't grow through that recognition. You grow through the commitment of this relationship, that you commit to each other for life. And through that relationship and through that commitment and that responsibility, day in and day out, the small things, the big things, that's when we reach down and become the people that we ultimately can be.
Okay, so once you've done all that super easy internal work of figuring out what to look for and what we want and what we're scared of and what we can and can't tolerate, again, super easy stuff, what comes next once the search is over and we've decided to commit? For Rabbi Manis Friedman, that's when the story actually begins. Why look for a soulmate? What's the benefit of a soulmate?
That is a question that everyone needs to ask but doesn't. Why marriage? Of all the things in life, why that for almost all people in the entire universe and all of history, marriage involved some religious ceremony? Why? Because there's no other reason to marry other than it's the godly way to be. The purpose of marriage is union, to become one. Can 2 people really become one? Most experts would say no. Unless you were one to begin with, and you're just going back to it. Then it's really easy because you're going back to your original nature. So then being separate is unnatural. Well, that changes, from one extreme to the other. The reason for getting married is because without it, you're alone. And we all know being alone is horrible, even a health hazard. But there's a godly side to us that hates being alone. Goodness doesn't begin until there are two. And the two become one. That's good. Knowing that this is your soulmate doesn't mean it's going to be easy. No. It just tells you that this is worth the investment.
Now let me go find that soulmate, but how do I know? Because I don't want a union. I want a reunion.
So what convinces me to marry whoever it is I choose to marry? I find something about that person that makes me want and wish that you're my soulmate. Now, if we end up married, then you are.
Yeah.
If we don't end up married, we were never soulmates. A soulmate means it's destined. Bashert. Destined. Destined means it's going to happen. At this stage in history, we need to know why. If you don't have marriage, you don't have family, you don't have family, you don't have community, you don't have community, you don't have society, and life can't work. Part of marriage means let's fulfill our purpose together. Once you get married, now you're living your life. That's everything. Before you got married, you had problems you should never have had.
All the great love stories I can think of are devoted to the search or to the tragic circumstances that tear couples apart. The formulas are all more or less the same. Finding each other, overcoming various hurdles, ending up at the finishing line of marriage, or if you're a Romeo and Juliet, pretending to be dead and then actually being dead. Sorry for the spoilers there. Okay, either way, most of the love stories start out before the characters make the ultimate commitment, and then the screen goes black. The book comes to an end, and that's it. Did Cinderella and the prince have any kids? Did the couple from Notting Hill ever fight about dirty dishes in the sink? Did Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy ever snipe at each other over whose turn it is to pack the school lunches? The implication here is that all of that stuff is boring, that it's not as important or romantic or glamorous or exciting, and that's true to an extent. Sure, building a life together isn't always exciting. At some point, you'll probably have to move. I hate moving. You'll get into fights about whose family to spend the holidays with, or who finished the last of the toilet paper, or whose turn it is to take out the dog.
We don't grow through our soulmates' good qualities. We actually grow through their challenging qualities. Because Becky, when you have to deal with your spouse's challenging qualities, what do you have to draw upon within yourself? You have to be patient, understanding, sensitive, empathic. We become great people, not through our spouse's good qualities or through our easy kid. We grow through the challenging child. We grow through the challenging qualities of our spouse, because that's when we have to draw upon our greatness.
Even when it's not challenging, it can be mundane. You spend a lot of time at IKEA, or watching TV, or doing the crossword together. It's not exactly the stuff of the great love stories. No one's wearing a sparkly dress, no one's getting down on one knee and declaring their love, no one's making dramatic speeches in the pouring rain. And that's what's so revolutionary about what Lori and Eliza and Rabbi Manis are saying. They're not saying give up on all that, romance is dead. They're saying that the real romance is in how you build your life together. It's in the mundane moments that aren't mundane at all because you're sharing them with your partner. You're building something together that isn't always flashy or glamorous, but that nurtures and comforts and challenges you, and that makes you feel safe enough to explore and grow and be the best version of yourself. Honestly, it sounds a little scary. It sounds like, am I ready? Can I do this? Should I spend a few more decades maybe just working on myself first before I try to find the one? Here's what Lori had to say about that.
In a world with so much uncertainty, when you don't know what's going to be, don't push off commitment. Don't push off life. Don't push off the pleasure and the joy of what it means to build a life with a person, to help them realize their potential. In a world on fire, where sometimes things look very, very dark, you can create a life and a home that can bring the beautiful light into the world that we need so very badly now.
I love that. Because isn't life about not just finding, but creating the light? About building connections and cultivating joy, about being the change you want to see? Finding your soulmate is hard. Building a life with them might be harder. But it's one of the most fulfilling ways to bring more light into the world. To grow into who we're supposed to be. To help another person grow into who they're supposed to be. If God split us in two halves, It's because he knew that deep fulfillment waiting for us once we reunited. And that's worth searching for.